Hello and welcome to NHRDN 78th webinar on the theme A 360-degree turn, changing face of competency assessments, HIPO identification and 360-degree feedback. My name is Avinash Khurana, the moderator for today's webinar. The webinar is divided into two parts, learning session for 45 minutes and Q&A session for next 15 minutes. We would really like to hear from you and would like to introduce your questions in the conversation. So ask questions using the chat panel on the right side of your GoToWebinar player to share your questions at any time during the webinar. And now it is my privilege to introduce our featured speaker, Mr. Mohit Gundecha. Good afternoon, Mr. Gundecha.
Hi Avinash, good afternoon. How are you?
Mr. Gundecha, can you hear me?
Avinash, can you hear me?
Okay, Mohit Gundecha is the CEO at Zombe, a talent retention and analytics company. He is passionate entrepreneur who believes in using technology to solve real-world problems. Prior to Zombe, Mohit was country head for MIG33, a mobile community for more than 50 million users. Prior to that, Mohit was studying at Stanford University in California, where he co-founded Mobile Momentum with Professor Thomas Kosnick. Mohit's biggest learning at Stanford has been human engineering, where he worked with the best in class from diverse culture and geographics across the world. Mohit was selected among 40 under 40 by Fortune magazine as a part of their 2015 list. And over to Mr. Gundecha.
Yeah, thank you, Avinash. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a warm summer afternoon in Mumbai. I am between my corporate meetings and I'll be doing this from my car, but the network is decent here, so I think we should be able to pull this off. So I'm in the Hiranandani Gardens right now, and it's a decent day. 40 degrees was what was in Mumbai yesterday. Today's hovering around 35, 36. I'm sure it's a lot more in different parts of the country. So we'll just start. I'll get my screen shared with soon. And what I intend to do today is talk about a topic that is relevant to most of us today around competencies and how competency assessments and 360 degrees are evolving in an organization. So I'll just share the screen first before we get rolling. Give me a minute. Yep, here we go. So I hope you guys can see the screen that I have shared. So most often we all talk about competencies, competency mappings, and a whole lot organizations do is to standardize the talent assessments across the level, get team feedback, and involve a lot of objectivity in their talent assessment processes. So what I'm going to speak today is around how new age psychometrics is changing the way competency assessments happen. And I'll give you simple tips on how can you yourself measure a whole lot of competencies that exist in a cost-effective and scalable fashion. I can share best practices on how high potential identification happens, and that's one part of the conversation today. I can also share on our experiences of how 360 degrees are evolving, how new age 360 degrees are evolving, and how parallel rating is changing the paradigm of 360 degree. And then we'll talk about how analytics impact both, how we can draw analytics on competency assessments and 360 degrees. So a little bit about Zombe. Some of you have heard first, some of you may not have. So I think I'll quickly go through what we do so that it sets context. Before doing that, a little bit about my background, so there's further more context. I started this company 4 years ago. as a direct-to-consumer psychometric profiler. So we profiled about, so anybody could come on our website, do his or her own psychometric profiling, and get kind of a strength finder report for free. We profiled about 1 million Indian professionals in the last 3 years before commercially launching it product. So we established reliability, validity of our tools by getting some of the people that we profiled, their managers, rate them on those reports. So yeah, our dream was always to build a world-class psychometric tool from India. Predominantly, we have been using tools which have been globally built and resold in India. We saw a huge opportunity for building the India-centric tools that can help companies hire, promote, and develop talent. So we call the tool as Zombe Quotient, JQ. So before that, I used to run, as Avinash mentioned, a mobile social networking app called MiG33. You would assume this as a first version of WhatsApp. We grew to more than 50 million users. And before that, my research at Stanford University was how do you use behavioral sciences and technology to build products for emerging markets. So my co-founder, Suruchi, comes from a behavioral sciences background. So she used to work with a Stanford University professor before coming back to India and starting this company. So we are a team of behavioral analysts, data analysts, statisticians, psychologists, engineers, and designers who are on a mission to change how talent assessment, talent analytics happen in India. So we won, last year has been good for us. We won both the People Matters and the NHRDN's Most Promising HR Product Awards. And we've been able to evangelize a lot of these products, and you would hear from us through multiple channels. So broadly, our products are divided into two aspects: the measurement part, the retention part, and the analytics that we run across. So predominantly, our products are used for high potential identification, first-time manager evaluation, value and cultural fitment hiring, 360-degree feedback. So the reason we've been successful, so the reason I'm telling you all of this context is then I can run you through our experiences. I can give you different examples of how competency assessment happens in different organizations. So predominantly our customers, there have been, when we started this company and profiled about 1 million people, and we established the reliability, validity, the accuracy and consistency of our psychometric tools, we went to companies and asked them, what are the challenges you face in your talent assessment processes? And we kept hearing from companies that I have a nice looking competency framework done, and I'm not able to measure those competencies. So that has been a consistent demand that we kept hearing from people. The other thing people kept hearing that if I use off-the-shelf psychometric tools, then I have to offline convert the scores of those and convert it into my competency framework and then insert it in my processes, which never happens. So customization was a consistent demand that we kept hearing. Second, we kept hearing that my business managers don't understand the psychometric reports. How can I enable them to understand those reports? And the third thing we kept hearing is my business head needs insights. I need to provide them insights after I run my competency assessments. So those were the three things that we consistently heard: customization, simplicity, and analytics. And we believe that these three things could disrupt the way competency customizations happen in India. So based on that context, we work with several companies so that I'll share whatever is possible and whatever is available in public domain and our experience learning of how new age competency assessments are happening. We work with several companies from Citi, Kotak, Nestle, TSP, WNS, Infosys, Fidelity Investments, Taj Hotel. The whole range of companies either use us for promoting the talent, developmental input, evaluating first-time managers, and even for hiring. Now, what's happening is the world of HR is significantly changing because of a young population and a large population that a country like ours has. A lot of age-old practices are being continuously reinvented or challenged. Technology is impacting that. You can now do a lot of things at scale. New age psychometrics is evolving. Psychometrics as a science has been a very powerful science. Now, given that the requirements of organizations are changing, the demands and volumes are expanding, the new age psychometrics is allowing companies to do things which was initially not possible. So combination of technology, new age psychometrics and analytics is changing the way competency assessments are happening in organizations. So taking a step back and saying why are competencies framed, right? Organizations, most of the organizations I have seen around, take a lot of effort in designing competencies. We create those nice looking PDF or PowerPoints, and a lot of stakeholder conversations happen, and we expect our employees to demonstrate those competencies. We expect a level of standardization across the organization, expecting that for you to be successful in your role, you need to demonstrate ABC. Now, what happens is after spending so much time and effort in building those competencies, if we don't measure those competencies, they don't matter. Just having a competency framework or a value framework that sits on a wall, and if we are not able to measure those competencies, it becomes a HR process of defining competencies. Nobody in the organization may even know of those competencies. So as you see on the screen, that is what I depict with what is not measured doesn't matter. So why are companies having a hard time measuring these competencies? Despite having a clearly defined competency framework, why do we face a hard time measuring competencies? Major challenges, if you look at traditional psychometric tools, they are very hard to customize to a competency framework. They would have their framework of XYZ, and you would get the psychometric report as is. You can't really customize it to your values or competencies. So what happens is, on one end, you told your employees, hey guys, these are the 4 competencies that we believe as an organization we need to demonstrate to be successful. On the flip side, you're saying, hey, by the way, I measured you using a off-the-shelf tool, and this is kind of similar to our competency framework. So the guy says, hey, wait a minute. Yesterday you told me that these are the 4 competencies that are important to me, and right now you're measuring on me on something else and telling me, okay, these are kind of similar to our competencies. There will be a lot of confusion. Off-the-shelf psychometric tools don't give you the flexibility to customize. Even if they do, you as a HR team, you may need to translate those scores into your competencies. If you're an organization of 4,000 people, how are you going to translate all these scores into a competency framework? So that has been a major hindrance for companies to be able to measure their competency framework despite having a robust framework in place. So what is the other way to measure? If it's not the standard off-the-shelf tool, then people measure it via an assessment center. Now, how many people would we be able to run through an assessment center? So we all know there's a lot of logistics involved in putting together an assessment center. So what we are increasingly seeing is they are becoming expensive. So getting people in one room for 2 days and having a lot of dependency on the quality of assessors becomes tricky. So what we are increasingly seeing is organizations want to optimize their assessment costs and invest in development costs. So the new age psychometrics is the way the challenges for new age psychometrics have been, how do you measure competencies across the organization in a scalable fashion and allow organizations to filter the right set of people to run a full-blown assessment center and a development center. So that's where, so what is the solution? Traditional psychometric tools are hard to customize easily because they're not built like that. They're built to give you either your type-based output, it could be your ENTJ or whatever, or they have their own formats. Tool that is a trait-based tool. So there are 2 types of psychometric tools. One is a type-based tool, which I said, an MBTI would be a type-based tool. You have to use it as is, or the other is a trait-based tool. Now, even there's a furthermore caveat. If a trait-based tool is built and standardized at the trait level, where if you see on the screen, each of the traits, may it be stress tolerance, target orientation, persistence, data driven. These are the bunch of traits, and there are several more that, let's say, a tool like a Jombe measures. You can literally pick and choose these traits and cluster it under your competencies. And I will show you an example. So the solution to measure competencies across the organization is going with a trait-based tool that is standardized at the trait level. You can literally pick and choose traits and cluster it to your competencies without hampering the accuracy of the tool. The accuracy of the tool still stays. As long as you're picking from this bank and clustering to your competencies, the accuracy and validity, reliability of the tool doesn't get compromised. So, yeah, I already told you about the reliability and validity of such tools are established at the trait level, not at the form level. So now let me run you through a real use case. So this will add a lot more sense to what I said so far. So let's say this is a real example. Let's say these are the 4 competencies that you define for a particular level in your organization. It could be personal effectiveness, execution excellence, managing people, strategic decision making. Now, these are the 4 competencies as an organization you have defined. Now you want to, and we all know this is a painstaking process to define these competencies, get stakeholder buy-in, do some validity on the competency framework, and then roll it out. After you invest so much time, now how do you measure this? So let's take one of these competencies. Let's say execution excellence. Now what happens is, the execution excellence has a vision for long-term implications, can plan and align goals according to the greater goal envisioned. For example, these are the behaviors you have listed under your competencies. Now what you need to do is look for a trait-based tool which is standardized at the trait level, and based on your behaviors, either you just pick and choose those traits from that bank of traits. It could be foresight, planning and prioritization, target orientation, or a bunch of these. So read the competency and go back to the trait pool. So you read the competencies and what were the behaviors under that competency. And either you could do it, or there's somebody, psychologist in your organization, or we have a bunch of psychologists who do this day in, day out. They read the customer's competency framework, look at what are the behaviors that matter to that competency framework. Go to our bank of traits that Jombe has and pick and choose to cluster it to that competency. So you can choose traits that matter to execution excellence from this bank, and you can just cluster it under those. So let me now show you how the report actually looks like. So you've done this exercise for execution excellence and you have picked up the traits that are relevant to execution excellence. Then your next competency is, let's say, managing people. So you'll read this description and pick and choose traits that matter to managing people. Same for personal effectiveness and strategic decision making. Now, once the tool gets configured, your assessment is ready. Now you can configure it and get people take the assessment, and a report like this gets generated. Here you go. So it's a tool on a 6-point scale from low to high. It has the scores on all those four competencies that were listed there. So you can see what the scores on a 6-point scale are on the competencies that you're measuring. It will allow you to see, let's say, personal effectiveness. Now you have, what were the behaviors measured under these? The behaviors that were measured is stress tolerance, persistence, responsibility of outcomes. The green depicts the area of strength. The orange depicts the area of improvement. So you saw a competency. Now let's say your next competency is execution excellence that I showed you on the deck before. So you'll see target orientation, foresight, planning and prioritization, etc. Same with managing people, and let's say strategic decision making. Now you would see strategic decision making has a lot of cognitive elements. So you have things like problem solving, decision making, strategic thinking, dealing with ambiguity. Now these are the traits that it's not possible to measure only via a behavioral tool. You need a cognitive tool. So we have a unique product that we built with a company called Pearson Talent Lens. You'll see the logo here. Talent Lens is Pearson's brand in India for talent. So we've built a joint product with Pearson Talent Lens so that we can measure the both behavioral and cognitive ability of a person. So what now in one tool you can measure both behavioral and cognitive and use this and again customize it to your competencies and use it for high potential identification, first time manager evaluations, and even in some cases for hiring as well. So we call the product as Hive, where Jombe measures behavioral, Pearson Talent Lens measures the cognitive elements like decision making, problem solving, strategic thinking, dealing with ambiguity, and we generate a combined report. So now so you saw the first part of the report, which is a summary of competencies. Second, it gives you the mapping on what behaviors have been on the screen right now. And then it tells you how far is the person from the desired range. So let's say for a behavior persistence, the guy has scored a low, average on the lower side, and his desired range is the blue bar. On persistence, the desired range is the blue bar, and the guy has scored outside the range. That's his area of improvement. Similarly, on stress tolerance, the guy has scored an average on the higher side, and he's on the desired range. So it's a favorable trait for him. So this now to interpret these reports, you don't need to be a psychologist or a certified professional. So what it now does is, and that's the mission of Jombe, is this is democratizing psychometrics for everybody. So the whole goal is, can you hand this report off to your line manager or a business manager so that he or she can understand this easily? That gives you a greater mind. Your competencies start getting appreciated a lot more. So I showed you an example of how competencies can be customized to this a tool like Jombe and Pearson Talent Lens. They have Raven's Advanced Progressive Matrices. We even have Watson Glaser's Critical Thinking tool. That plus a behavioral tool gives you a good correlation, or it's a high degree of reliability, validity for you to do high potential identification. So now you see how new age psychometrics is changing the way you can measure your competencies. So let me go back to the deck. So if you see the advantages that I've listed, I already spoke about those, but now you can measure your competencies. There's no force fitting. You can measure competencies even at junior level. Because more often than not, we have seen in some cases, we define competencies across the level and then end up measuring it only for senior leadership. Saying, senior leadership ke liye ye karenge, that's what is important. But then why define competencies across all levels? In fact, at a large scale, at the bottom of the pyramid, as the organization grows up, there one can actually measure and see and draw analytics, and even competencies can be measured at a larger scale if we can enable online solution. This gets off all the manual work of the exercise. And we've seen very interesting results where organizations have implemented competency assessments across the level. And if any of you want to try out, if you have competencies defined or in the process of defining competencies or have role descriptions, I'm happy to share a sample report with you on your competencies and a trial link for you to try it out. You can actually see and play with the competencies. We can even enable you to pick and choose competencies, play with the competency frameworks and the behavior mapping. So if any of you have a competency framework and want to see a sample report based on that, just drop me an email at mohit@jombe.com, and I will trigger, my team will trigger a trial link both on the sample report and the assessments for you. So now let's get to the 360 degrees. 360 degrees is not new. It's been around for a while, and it's a very interesting tool to get feedback and see what are the gaps in perception and how colleagues are thinking. So we all know about 360 degrees. So when we decided, when our customers started asking us for 360 degrees, we looked around in the market. There were at least 100 companies in India who provide 360 degree tools. So for us, the option was either to partner with one of them or then see if we could do something interesting and add value in the process. So we interviewed a lot of people who have gone through a 360-degree exercise. We asked them, what are the challenges you face in your 360-degree processes? We kept hearing from people that it's a long, boring and tedious process. I have to answer the same questions for 10 different people and I get bored. That was one thing we heard. It's long, tedious and boring. Same question for 10 different people. Now, second thing that we kept hearing, saying that if 5 people report to me, when I answer for the first guy, I am fine. When I go to the second guy, I feel, was I a bit too strict with the first fellow? Am I being too lenient with this guy? And by the time I go to the 5th guy, I am lost. So these two feedback we consistently got, that is long, tedious and boring, and I get lost answering people one by one. So we looked around and we researched. There is a theory called social comparison theory. What that theory says, if you tell one person to rate 5 people, you want it or not, he is going to compare those 5 people. So social comparison theory clearly says that if you tell one person to rate multiple people, you want it or not, this person is going to compare. So there's a lot of haphazard comparison going to happen. So to solve this, we introduced something called a parallel rating feature. So what this parallel rating feature is, a fairly unique product. What this parallel rating feature does is now if you have one question, let's say how often does this person go out of the way to help others? Let's say that one question in your 360-degree survey. You can have all 5 people, you can rate all 5 people in one screen. Let's say you can rate Prakhar, Chandrakant, Amruta, Anuja and Nikhil all in one screen. Now you are in the same mood, same context of the competency. You can rate them in one screen, saves you the time and effort and avoids haphazard comparison. Now at this point, some of you would have the question, does this not enable comparison? Are we facilitating comparison between candidates? So yeah, this is the most often question that we get asked, and we've done a lot of research around it. You want it or not, comparison happens. So either you give people one by one or you give people parallel all together, comparison happens. So instead of a haphazard comparison, I rather give them one screen where I enable them to rate people all in one go so that they're in the same mood, same context. So let me now, it reduces your time and fatigue to complete. So I'm sure all of us have to pull our hairs to get people complete the 360-degree survey. It takes too long. People don't finish those. You have to keep sending reminders after reminders. You've seen 5 to 6 reminders are needed to get people complete all of those. Second, it increases the accuracy because I am in the same context of this and enables uniform comparison so that the haphazardness of that process is pulled off. So let me show you how a report looks like. So again, what this report does is, so this if you see it's a sample 360 report, gives you a summary of the competency ratings, gives you the perception gap of what is the violet that you see is the observer scores. The blue is the self score. So what is the perception gap between what the observers have rated you and what you have rated yourself? So it's a clear mirror. So competencies. So this is a sample 360 report. You will see competencies on the left side. You will see the scores on the right. So you can see the perception gap of how you have rated yourself and how your stakeholders have rated you. So that's the first part. Similarly, all the competencies, personal effectiveness, execution excellence, managing people. Then it clubs things as recognized strengths and unrecognized strengths. So it's a clear, very nice summary of where you have agreed with your stakeholder, it's recognized. Where you have not agreed with your stakeholders, it's an unrecognized strength or area of improvement. Then it tells you competencies in the descending order, gives you breakdown of how your stakeholders have rated you on multiple competencies. So how your managers, subordinates, coordinates, colleagues have rated you on all of these. So it's a fairly comprehensive report, which starts with the summary and the perception gap, and these all can be customized. So parallel rating is significantly it's getting adopted. Is in some of the progressive Indian companies is already being adopted. It's largely getting adopted in the US now, and I'm sure this is going to get mainstream in the next 6 to 12 months in India as well. I'm seeing a lot of our customers opting for a parallel rating approach versus a serial rating approach, which is one by one. So now, so we saw that how new age psychometrics is impacting competency assessments. We saw how new age 360 degrees are happening, where you can exactly measure your competencies. Reports are no longer complex. You don't need certifications to understand these reports. Now, let's see one example of how analytics also can be pulled off of these. Because what happens is you might have done, let's say, all competencies assessments across the organization, but you may want to know what are the ways, what is the insight that I can give to the business? How can I know what are the top development areas? How can I know what is the gap between my talent and the industry benchmark? So that's where analytics kicks in. So all our tools come with analytics. Now you can see, let's see, after somebody goes through the competency assessments and you want to know what are the top areas of improvement of your people in the order. So that, let's say under your competency framework, the behaviors that say people understanding, emotional control and convincing. These are the top 3 behaviors where most of your people don't score in the desired range. So now what you did, you profiled say 100 people, but this is the summary. So analytics gives you the so what. So assessments is just the means to an end. In fact, I was there at the Indo-German Chamber of the HR meet organized by the Indo-German Chamber this morning. HDFC Ergo had facilitated that, and they invited me to speak on analytics and assessment. So I spoke the exact same thing. How analytics, so assessments is a means to an end. After you do your competency assessments, if you don't drive insights on what are the top development areas, who is the high potential, what are my gaps between what my people are scoring and what is the industry best, then it remains an incomplete exercise. It is as good as going to a doctor and doctor is telling you that your hemoglobin is this much and your WBC count is this and your BMI index is this. You'll obviously ask, so what? Or if some of you like going to astrologers, I do visit astrologers once in a while. If they tell you that your Mars is in the 10th house and your Sun is in the 12th house and your Pluto is in the 4th house, and after that he doesn't tell you anything, you will feel betrayed. What the heck? So this tools allow you to analytics that comes with our competency assessment tools, give you off-the-shelf analytics on top of the assessments that you run. So it's easier for you to arrange your L&D initiatives, understand the training needs of your population, and even pass it on to the business on what are the areas of development. So I'll take a break at this point and start taking questions on with you guys. So let me start seeing the questions now. Yeah, Avinash, can you enable the questions?
Yeah, Mohit. First question from Nana. Could you please define how you define a trail versus competency?
Could you define how you define a?
Define a trail
One second,
versus.
let me see the question here. Just 1 second. So would you be facilitating this or I'll be reading from here, Avinash? How would it work?
You can read some.
Can I read from here? Might be easier that way.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. just picking up questions. Just a second. Most of them upfront are the teething issues. Let me just pull up messages now. Yeah. So the first question is, since you mentioned the 1 million assessments, I wanted to know how many Indian company groups do you have for psychometric tools that you mentioned? So this question is from Cyrus. Hi Cyrus, thanks for the question. See, we profiled till date now about 1.5 million people across all major categories, major experience levels. We have not done a lot of CXO level profiling, but we have done a lot of mid-junior, mid-senior, and entry-level assessments as well across FMCG, pharma, BFSI, retail, BPO, IT, manufacturing, a whole range of sectors we have covered, and our norms are based on experience level, function, and industry. So it's a pretty detailed one. So the other question is, how have you been explaining about the behavioral competencies? How about the technical competencies? How do we bring in this too? So this is Soumya. Hi Soumya. So we have partners for technical competencies where they measure technical competencies wherever needed, or it could be technical at times, it could be functional, and we measure behavioral and still generate a combined report for the customers. Is there any company in India which is using Jombe's tool? This is from Anju. Hi Anju. There's a whole lot of companies use our products, from Citi, Nestle, Taj Hotels, HDFC Bank, Kotak Life Insurance, HDFC Life Insurance, then Edelweiss Capital, Infosys BPO, for WNS, Fidelity. A whole range of those use our products to hire, promote, or develop talent. So it's Neha Joshi. How we connect this with the performance metrics? See, a lot of companies, what they do is they take the performance metrics, and then from the performance data of organization they have, and they take the potential metrics from their competency tools like Jombe, customized to the same set of competencies, and then they map that performance and potential to decide the future of a person or give him developmental inputs. So Shravan Kumar. Shravan, we can definitely connect on this question offline, but his question is, do you have any kind of fresher assessments for campus interview? Yes, a whole lot of our customers use our fresher frontline tools. We have frontline assessments, we have fresher. These are stripped down versions. These are not full-blown competency assessments, but we do have assessments that are fairly useful in campus hiring. So I can send you more details offline. So Manjali Arora, yeah, she would like to see the reports which we have gone through. Then, yeah, so the good question, Ravi Sharma. He says, what defines the low and high range that you showed in your report? How do you define ranges? So, Ravi, we call this as an benchmarking exercise. The way our competency, this is another advantage of a new age psychometric tool. It can give you both benchmarks. It can give you a company-specific benchmark, and it can give you an industry benchmark. So a company-specific benchmark would be, let's say you identified a bunch of population. Let's say you have identified 200 people, and you are trying to do a high potential exercise. So you can let all those 200 people go through competency assessments on Jombe. Then the Jombe tool can pull off the 50 percentile, the benchmark, where 50 percentile of your good performers or lie, and that becomes the desired range for everybody else. So that's how one could define for company specific, or then Jombe has the industry benchmark given the number of people that we have managed to profile. And at the fast we are growing and we able to solve, we're adding more and more profiles each day. That gives us a propensity to define the low and high range. Now, yeah, so there's a question. Can you define a trait versus a competency? See, a trait is a subset of a competency. It's a bunch of behaviors that define a competency. So typically a competency or a value is nothing but a list of behaviors that you're expected to exhibit to succeed in that role. So this question was from Nina Bavlekar. Then so this is from Riddhi Shah. What are some of the new age psychometrics that enables to measure competencies related to career aspirations of an individual? So typically we have seen in organizations where they want the people to understand what are their the career. Our tools are also used for career progression conversations to see what kind of career paths are more suitable to an individual or where his aspirations or interest lies. We enable the tools for them as well. So let me see what are the other questions. So this is Gauri Rao. So she's from Fiat India. She's asking, can you please share more details on parallel rating? See, parallel rating is a new age concept of 360. Traditional 360 has been, if let's say 10 people are, let's say 5 people are reporting to you, and you have to rate for, you individually rate each of them one by one. Take one survey, again they give a same set of questions. Take another survey to give a same set of questions on different people. That's serial rating. But for you to make this process more efficient and effective and avoid haphazard comparison, what Zombie has introduced is a parallel rating. So 5 people are reporting to you. You can rate all 5 in one screen simultaneously. You're in the same mood, same context. You can do this job much more effectively. So that's it for a parallel rating. So Priyanka Modak, her question is, do you think that the competency assessment can be used without the assessment centers? See, online competency assessment is definitely not a replacement for an assessment center. I think you cannot replace a 2-day assessment center by an hour-long competency assessment, but you can definitely get an indicator at a larger scale where you want to measure a whole lot of people, where your cost, time and resources is a constraint, and you want to narrow down to a certain population. That's one use case where you have a lot of people you want to narrow down. Or B, where you can use these online competency assessments as one of the inputs in your assessment center processes. And then optimize on the assessment time. You can just do few observational exercises on top of the psychometric tool and then focus more on the development center part of it. So Nishma Kapasi, she's saying she would like to see a sample report. Nishma, I'll send that across to you offline. So Amrita Ksima, she is saying, could you please elaborate on your framework of assessment centers is provided by Zombie? So as I said, we have a panel of consultants who do assessment centers for us. We don't ourselves. We are a product. We are a tool company. But we do have a framework for high potential identification, competency assessments of high potential, where that framework can be used by companies online to measure their competencies and then decide on who gets through the full-blown assessment center. And that framework can be customized to a company's competency framework as well. So Dolly Bhandari, she is asking, how can you use this framework in recruitment specifically? See, recruitment so our competency is for lateral recruitment. You can customize the framework that you're using for internal development and use it for laterals as well. We have customers who use us for both hiring and for development. You can use psychometric assessments for frontline hiring, fresher campus hiring as well, for you to get a sense on role fitment, cultural fitment of a candidate. So Nishma Kapasi, how would it work for an organization as huge as with a lakh employees? So Nishma, this can in fact work out really well for organization of that size, because you can now use it you can get everybody assessed online, and then get a lot of analytics and data on their top training needs, individuals training needs, or the development areas, etc. So it's a tool that can be used across any size of a company. Sonali Patel, do you have such tools for small scale companies as well? It's very interesting. A large scale company and a small scale company. Yeah, of course it can be used. We even have somebody can go on our website and take a trial. So what I'm going to do post this webinar is send you all a trial of our assessment so that you have a sense on how the whole thing works. If you have competencies, you can share it with us, and I can share a sample report and a trial link on those competencies as well. So Anju Sabharwal, how does this tool help to do structured selection interviews? Yes, these tools can be used for interviews. The competency tool generates an interview guide as well. So you would know what are the areas of improvement of an individual and what are his strengths, so that you can ask questions in the interview or then select people based on the reports. So Jyoti Sharma, is Bombay working with manufacturing companies? If yes, please mention 1 to 2 names. Yes, we do. We work with Anand Group, their group companies as well, Mahle, Victor, Gabriel, and we also work with KSB Pumps. Hi Mohit, so this is Kundan Kumar. Do we have any tool to check the learning agility of the candidates? Yes, Kundan, we have with our partner Pearson, we have a learning agility tool. So we measure learning agility by both from a behavioral standpoint and a cognitive standpoint. Behaviorally, we measure learning. Through Pearson, we measure the learning agility, and then together we give a combined report on that. So you could reach out to us. We'll send you some details. So how is your assessment different? So this is Gawhar tool. How is your assessment different from regular competency mapping? What is the result output of the organizations who opted for your assessment? So the advantage with Jombay's competency tool, as I mentioned before, is our ability to customize to a competency framework of an organization. So there's no force fitting. Whatever you have on your slides, you will see in your reports. So it measures to the T the competency framework. B, there is no need for you to undergo any certification to be able to understand this report. It is that simple and easy to understand. And 3 is the analytics that you can draw. So simplicity, customization, and analytics has been has been a dominant reason for us to grow in the last year and a half, that we've grown really fast. So what is the next question? How can this be implemented in a startup where things are dynamic and not defined, since the employees work on cross-functional domain? So startups, the way startups work with us is, when we have startups like Quicker and Practo using our tool, is they pick from our bank of competencies. Based on their role descriptions, the startups will come and say, I want to measure ABC, and we enable the tools for them. So the question was from Shalini. So Cyrus had a question on tool certification by APA or British Psychology Institute. Is your psychometric tools rated by British Psychology Institute? So we are in the process of getting the rating from British Psychology Institute. APA doesn't certify tools, and unfortunately there is no body in India that certifies, hence we have to get it done from British Psychology Institute. So we're in the process, Cyrus, of that. So what is the other? During 360-degree assessments for development succession, lower level employees are already little conscious in assessing competencies of bosses. So to what extent will parallel assessment be feasible? So for if the employee has to rate only one person, then we don't enable a parallel rating for them. Then they can go the usual serial rating route, where they have to rate multiple people on the same competencies. Then we enable the serial rating approach. Sorry, the parallel rating approach. So I'm saying, so it's Sharwari Nikam. Is there any report where you can assess the potential versus performance of the employees? See, the performance is gathered by the organization. Potential is measured by companies' tools like Jombase, and a combined report gets generated. So Parvez Syed, he is asking, do you have tools to measure competencies in lower level staff? Definitely, we have tools to measure across all levels of experience. We have specific tools. In fact, for very low level people, we even have a Hindi English tool, which is not just Hindi and English. We have local language assessments as well, especially for retail, frontline. A lot of our retail clients and frontline clients ask us for local language assessment. So we do have local language English, Hindi, and some other local languages as well in the tool. What we have seen is people don't understand textbook Hindi completely at that level, nor people understand textbook English. So it's a combination of local language plus English. Yeah, so Jyoti's question is again, are your tools designed for both white collar and blue collar employees? Yes, we have tools for both white collar and blue collar employees. So there's another question from Puneet. How this tool will help the organization which does not have the KRA KPI defined? So this tool can be used for people, if the organization doesn't have a competency framework defined, they can pick from our bank of competencies. They can pick and choose based on the roles, or we have a team of psychologists who goes through these, who can go through your role descriptions and create a competency, either the competencies for you or help you pick competencies from this bank. So let's see if there are any final questions to be. It's Farhad Jawad. Do you have tools to measure the competencies of sales employees? Yes. In fact, sales is one of our top. Lot of organizations use our tools to measure sales people across the board, from managers to even frontline guys. So we have a fairly robust competency tool for sales guys. So it's Naina Bedi Shiran, that I think more Avinash will be able to answer. Can we hear this webinar again offline for our reference? So I think I'll let Avinash communicate. We will send you some material, Naina, once this, and happy to run you through. One of my team members can rerun some of this for you. If any of you have any specific questions or want a full demo on this or want to understand more about the webinar, feel free to email us at mohit@jombe.com and we'll get that sorted for you. So I think it's about, and do you have any pharma client? Yeah, we work with Sun Pharma. So it's Kundan's question. So in Jombe, so it's Puneet Sharma's question. We are the front-end application user and back-end team is certified in this tool and generate the report for us. Yeah, so it's we enable you the system, so it's easy to understand and roll this out. So you wouldn't need a lot of certification. So there are two ways to make money in this business. One is build a complex product and charge your customers for understanding your product, and then build an army of consultants on top of it. So that's a model that traditionally has been operational, that make the product complex and charge people for understanding your product. The other way to make money in this business, in our kind of business, is build a very simple product, but bet that a lot of people will buy your product because you are simple. We have gone the simplicity route where we enable people, we're democratizing this. So internally our motto or our corporate presentation says we're democratizing the power of psychometrics by simplicity, customization and analytics. So we've gone that route, no certification required for Jombe. You have real estate clients? Yes, we work with Paranj Pay schemes, we work with Kolse Patil.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mohit. Thanks.
So can you share, sorry, I'll just take this last one quickly. Can you share your assessment tools and techniques with management students at our university so that they can get baptized with the latest advancements in psychometrics? Sure, we already do. We work with Symbiosis in Pune. So happy to do that if you can drop me an email. So our contacts are there on the screen that you can see. Mohit and Mansi is my colleague. She takes care of growth at our company. So you can take down our contact details. So we are at mohit@jombe.com, mansi@jombe.com, and our phone numbers are also on the screen. So you could reach out to us in case or drop us an email. Happy to connect you to the right people. So thanks so much for a patient hearing. Look forward to stay connected on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. I'm active on all those three platforms. So do drop me an email to say hello or your feedback on the webinar. I would love to hear how it was and what your takeaways were, or just drop a quick hello. Would appreciate that. So mohit@jombe.com is my email, and do add me on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mohit. On the behalf of NHRDN, I really thank Mr. Mohit Gundecha for sharing his wonderful thoughts, insights, and experience with us. We are grateful to you, Mr. Sir. Hello.
Sure. Thank you, Avinash. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good evening, guys. Take care.